everyone, it's Sarah. Today's video, I'm going to show you how to make our 12th and final 6-inch crochet square in our year-long crochet along. Now, if you haven't been following along, each month I've been designing a 6-inch square for us to do together, and I've used the birthstone as my inspiration. December's birthstone is the blue Topaz on the list that I'm using. And so I designed a 6-point star in blue with a cream trim. I think it's really, really pretty. And like I said, it measures 6 inches. Now, as always, this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. So this is December's 6-inch square. Like I said, it's called December Blue Topaz on the list that I'm using for my inspiration. The yarn that I used is a sparkly yarn. I used a blue and a white sparkle yarn. And those are both worsted weight number 4 yarns. For today's demonstration, I'm going to just be using Red Heart Super Saver number 4 yarns. And I've tried to keep all the squares the same as far as the type of yarn that we used. And you can use any worsted weight number 4 yarn for this project. We're also going to be using our H hook. The H hook is called an H8, which is a 5.00 millimeter hook. We'll also need a needle for weaving in those ends, and of course, a pair of scissors. We'll be starting in the center like you do with most crochet squares, and working our way out first with the star and then the trim. We're going to begin first with our blue yarn, of course. We're going to make a slip knot, put our hook in the loop, and chain 5. We're going to form this 5 chain into a loop by putting our yarn over our hook and pulling it through that loop. And then we'll just snug that down and make a little knot at the top so that it holds. And this is the little loop that we'll begin stitching our star in. All right, let's put our hook through, pull up a loop, and chain 3. This chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to stitch another double crochet in this loop. Yarn over, go in that loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. Now our chain 3 counted as our first double crochet. Then we made 1 double crochet. We're going to chain 2. Now we're going to make 2 double crochets, all working in this same chain 5 that we started with. 2 double crochets and chain 2. And we're going to repeat this so that we get a total of 6 sets of 2 double crochet, chain 2. So we have 2, so we need to make 4 more sets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I will tell you this is going to be a little bit snug. You're going to have to squeeze them in. Here's our last 2 double crochets, chain 2. Now we're going to join to the top of our chain 3 with a slip stitch. We pulled up a loop. We're going to pull that loop through the loop on our hook. And that's how that should look at this point. We should have 6 sets of 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then join to the top of our chain 3. All right, for our next row, we're going to slip stitch in the top of that next double crochet and then slip stitch into the next chain 2 space. And that just gets us to that chain 2 space. We're going to chain 3, and again, that chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to stitch 2 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space. Then we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to stitch 3 more double crochets in this same chain 2 space. And that makes a corner. And so what we're going to be doing in each of the chain 2 spaces is we're going to stitch 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. We're going to chain 1 first, and then we'll stitch another corner. One, 2, 3, chain 2, and then 1, 2, 3 double crochets. Chain 1. Now we'll go to the next chain 2 space and we'll repeat what we did. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. And then chain 1. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3 corners. And now we need to do that in our next 3 chain 2 spaces. Three double crochet, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Chain 1. And now we'll repeat this in our last 2 chain 2 spaces. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and then we chain 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, chain 1. And now we'll do this in our last chain 2 space. Now if you look at it, it looks a little wobbly, I guess is the term that I'm looking for. We've got a lot going on in a small amount of space, but don't worry, it'll flatten out. And if it doesn't flatten out, you can always block it. All right, so there's my chain 1. You can see it does flatten out nicely. Here's our chain 3. We're going to join to the top of that chain 3. Then we're going to slip stitch in the top of the next 2 double crochets, and then slip stitch in the next chain 2 space in order to get us back to a chain 2 space. And that's how this should look at this point. All right, let's stitch row 3. Now you'll notice when I joined, I only chained 1 and not 3, and that's because of how we're going to be stitching this row. In this first chain 2 space, which is at the top of a corner, we're going to stitch a single crochet, then a half double crochet, then a double crochet. chain 2, and then we'll do that in reverse. We'll stitch a double crochet, a half double crochet, and then a single. And that makes a little bit of a point for our points on our star. Single, half, double, chain 2, double, half, single. And then we'll stitch a single crochet in this chain 1 space between those corners. So just one single crochet, and now we'll repeat that on our next corner. So we'll stitch a single crochet, a half double crochet, and then a double crochet, chain 2, and then we'll do that in reverse. A double crochet, a half double crochet, and then a single. And then we'll go to that chain 2 space, or chain 1 space between the corners and stitch a single. And you can see how the point is starting to poke out on all the corners. All right, let's do the next one. Single, half double, and double. Chain 2, double, half, and single, and then we'll go to the next chain 1 space and stitch a single crochet. All right, now to the next corner. Whoops, I tried to stitch a double. Single crochet, half double crochet, and a double crochet. Chain 2, double crochet, half double crochet, and a single. And then the chain 1 space, we're going to stitch a single. And that's the way we'll do the last 2 sides of our star. All right, so we did our last single crochet in our last chain 1 space. So we're going to join to the first single crochet with a slip stitch, just like that. And we're going to go ahead and tie that off. And I know we don't normally do that in a Afghan square or a crochet square, but we are going to do that this time. I'm going to put my hook from behind and pull that loop to the back and tie that off. And we'll weave that in a little bit later. But this is how your star should look at this point. The way we're going to stitch that outside trim is the reason that we went ahead and tied off. Now at this point, I would go ahead and turn this over and weave these ends in with my needle before I went on to the next portion. You don't have to. I just like to get it out of the way. All right, to add our trim, you can choose any star point that you want to start in. I'm just going to go in this one. I'm going to pull up my white yarn, snug that down, and then I'm going to stitch 1 single crochet in that star point. I'm going to chain 3. And then the single crochet between, I'm going to stitch 1 double crochet. And then I'm going to stitch a second one right in that same single crochet. We stitched a single crochet in the chain 2 space, we chained 3, and then stitched 2 double crochets in the single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3. There we go. And we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in the chain 2 space of the next point. Then we're going to chain 3. And we'll repeat what we did here. 2 double crochets in the single crochet that's between the 2 star points. 1, 2. Chain 3. My yarn doesn't want to come out today. Single crochet in the chain 2 of the star point, chain 3, 2 double crochets in the single crochet between. There we go. And chain 3. And we'll just repeat this all the way around, and this sets us up so that we can turn our star into a square. I chained 3, single crochet in the chain 2 space of the start point, and chain 3, 2 double crochets in the single crochet between the 2 star points, and chain 3. Single crochet, chain 3, 2 double crochets, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3, and 2 double crochets. We're in our last single crochet between. There we go. Chain 3, and then we're going to join to that first single crochet where we started with a slip stitch. And you'll notice that it curls up just a little. It'll flatten out when we make it into a square, and this is how that it should look at this point. And we only have one more row to do. All right, let's take our star that we've made into a circle and now make it into a square. So we're going to slip stitch into this first chain 3 space and chain 3. There we go. And this chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. We're going to stitch 2 more double crochets. We're going to chain 2 and then stitch 3 double crochets, and this is forming our first corner. Now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to go over to our next chain 3 space, and we're going to stitch 3 double crochets. Then we'll chain 2, and then we'll go in the next chain 3 space and stitch 3 double crochets. And chain 2. So we've got a corner and a side. We're going to go to our next chain 3 space and stitch a corner. And so we'll stitch 3 double crochets we'll chain 2 and stitch 3 more double crochets in that same chain 3 space. So now we have our second corner. Chain 2, pull out some more yarn. All right, the next 2 chain 3 spaces, we're going to stitch 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets. There we go. Whoopsie, chain 2. Alrighty, now we're going to make our next corner. So we'll repeat what we did, 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3 corners. So let's make our next side. We chain 2, 3 double crochets. There we go. Chain 2 and 3 double crochets. Chain 2, and now we're going to make our last corner. Three double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets like we did on the other 3. Get in there. There we go. Chain 2, and we have 2 chain 3 spaces left that we're going to put 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets. Okay, we're going to chain 2. We're back around. We're going to join to the top of this chain 3 and tie off. This is the back. I am going to take a few minutes to weave in these ends. And make sure when you're weaving in and you're using 2 colors that you be careful not to let your yarn go through, because you don't want any of that white to show through on the blue, and you don't want any of the blue to show through on the white. So we'll just stay up into the whitish color. I guess it's more of a cream, isn't it? There we go. Now this one, because it is a star made into a circle, into a square, we'll probably need just a little bit of blocking. And the best way to block it is like this one. I pinned it to the board, and then I just spritzed it with some water and let it dry so that it would hold its shape. It's a great way to work with acrylic. A lot of people will use an iron and warm it up a little bit, and that works too. It's just you have to be very careful not to burn acrylic yarn, because acrylic yarn really is just basically spun plastic. And so you don't want to burn it, so you have to be very careful and keep your iron on low if you're going to do it that way. So this is how you make the December blue topaz 6-inch square. Now next month in January, we'll be putting all of these squares together in a surprise project. And you don't have to use all of my squares that I designed. You're just going to need 12 6-inch squares for that project. So be checking for that. You don't want to miss out.